Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, Stories from the 78 out here in East Lakeview. Look at that view. It's fantastic. Let alone the decor in this place is fantastic. I have a really awesome story. I think a lot of people know the football team here in Chicago, and I have a common friend between the football team and what I do for a living, and that is my friend Sarah Tuohy. How you doing, Sarah?
Hi, Tom. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So the friend that we're talking about is your brother, Dan Toohey. I've known Dan since our college years at Illinois State, and I met you just by being friends with him for almost 20-something years. But he works for the Bears, and you somehow, some way, started becoming the person that bakes for the Bears. Tell me that story.
Sure. Yeah, it's a fun story. And I actually, when I was asked, I think it was the summer of 2012. My brother came to me. It was before training camp started, and he was like, "Hey, Sarah, you know how we get treats, homemade treats every Thursday for the players in the video department?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "We need a new treat maker. Will you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I love the Bears, but
Right.
I'm like, but I don't know how to bake."
Right. You didn't bake before this,
Right.
which
I'm
I
like,
think is hilarious.
he's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out."
But did you bake for the family or anything like that?
No, the only thing I'd ever baked before was the darn Toll House cookies on the back of the Nestle chips, and they never turned out right. And my sisters always turned out perfectly, and so actually got me to hate baking because I was like, my thing was cooking.
Gotcha.
I'm the girl that would have parties, fabulous appetizers, and wine. And so baking is a science, though. You have to really concentrate,
Right.
and if you have one small little ingredient off, baking soda's off, baking powder is in place, it's gonna change your whole outcome of what your product you're making. So, and so I just thought, you know what, it's too precise, and I love cooking, but because I love the Chicago Bears, I said, yeah, I'll do it, and he said, well, great, but you have to figure out how to make these balls, these Oreo balls.
Right. That was like the jumping off point, right?
Yes, I'm like, what are these Oreo balls? And he's like, Brian Urlacher loves them. Lance Briggs loves them. So you guys got to figure out how to make them. And I said, all right, well, what's the recipe? Because there was a woman that was baking for like 20 years. And that's what got me to say, well, how did this tradition start anyway? So he told me about 20 years earlier, the scouts came into town. A lot of the scouts are from out of town. They were in town, and training camp had just started. And they were like, you know what? We need something homemade. We need something to welcome these players. Because a lot of the players are young. They're from out of town themselves. They're away from their families for months at a time.
Sure.
So he's like, we need something to welcome them in. So this one woman who was great, who was friends with the guys in the video department, started baking things. And at some point, she brought in some Oreo balls, and everybody went crazy over them, especially Brian Urlacher. So much so that he
Which is kind of a big deal back then with the
right.
Bears.
I mean, he was the
Yeah,
superstar,
yeah,
you
for
know.
sure.
So when she was on her way out, Dan said to me, my brother said, "You just got nothing really matters, but figure out how to make these balls." So that's what I did. But I also said, you know what, a chocolate chip cookie says home to me. So I went out that summer right before training camp started. I was like, I knew I had, because it's only the 17 weeks during the NFL that they
Sure.
get the treats. So I went out and I just started, looking for recipes. If I'd go to a party and tasted some desserts that I thought were great, I'd always ask for the recipe. So I kind of just got together and started really figuring out how to, and I would test bake these recipes. I'd print them off. I'd follow bloggers and Instagram and Facebook, and I'd print recipes. I'd test bake like 3 different types of a cake or a cookie or a cookie bar. I'd bring them into work where I worked at the time and have all my colleagues vote for them. So they loved
Oh,
me, this
yeah.
whole project. And then, from there, I would take the votes and then figure out which one was the best. And I did a pretty good job. And then to the point where I really got to like baking then. And then, the players, luckily, and the organization really started to love my treats as well, to the point where Dan was like, okay, the pound cake. I got 2 orders from a couple of the players. They want to know where the pound cake is. And now they're saying, well, can your sister make it for me? So I started doing, cakes and cookies. And then the organization itself, the Bears have their own nonprofit, and they asked me to do some of their luncheons for breast cancer awareness. And I actually did a charity event for Bears Care, did all the treats for that. So I started getting like little one-off projects here and there too. And so I did form an LLC, thought I wanted to be a baker. But then I realized it's just really it's a passion of love, a labor of love, I should say.
Sure.
And so now I just do it for friends, family, and the bears when they ask me to.
Right, and you do it right here in your house. You don't have
Yeah.
like a ghost kitchen or anything. I mean, this is your spot. I'm just going to show a little bit because there's the bear's closet back there where you have a lot of your baking goods. There's items right here. Look at this. We even have, this is something that you made just recently for their holiday party,
Yes,
right?
just last night.
Yeah, you've been up, and you've been up all night doing this thing. But it's made it such an impact on a lot of these players where they come back after they're playing and ask you to participate in events for them. I mean, including Brian Urlacher. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
And you were there. You
I was
got
there.
to be a part of that. That's amazing.
I brought about 300 Oreo balls on ice from Chicago to Canton, Ohio,
That's
safely.
amazing.
And I was so excited to be a part of his party, too. His wife then said, Brian, don't tell anybody, but he's going to mention the Oreo balls in his Hall of Fame speech. So I had inside scoop, and he did. He mentioned how Thursday was the best day of the week for him because of the treats. And he called them donut balls in his speech, but he meant Oreo balls. And then she actually texted me a couple weeks after and was like, would you mind sharing the recipe with me? Because I did tweak a couple things from the original recipe that I got. But yeah, so he's still enjoying them. And that's the reason why the Bears, to this day, I mean, Brian's been retired now for, 10 or so years.
Yeah.
But the Bears still, we're getting those balls because of Brian.
And you started the website, bakingforthebears.com, right?
Yes, I started bakingforthebears.com a few years ago when I thought, I spend so much time researching recipes, then actually printing them out and then testing them.
Yeah.
And so I wanted, tried and true data on these recipes. Everybody can call their world's best cookie, world's best, cheesecake, but I'm like, is it really the world's best?
Right.
So that's
True
where
Chicago, and you are.
Right. Well, and I just wanted, I'm very particular. I'm very brand loyal, brand specific. I'm kind of a freak in the kitchen. So I don't like a whole lot of people like telling me what to do or helping me out. I have to concentrate. But because of that, and it is because it's a labor of love, it sounds so cheesy, but when your heart is in it, I think that's really when you develop a really good product. And baking is a real labor of love.
And you have that all archived on your website for some of the ones,
Yep.
like you gave me the raspberry bar.
Yes.
Oh my God, those are amazing.
Yes.
And that got you in the paper.
Yes. So the 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was on hiatus from baking because nobody was allowed into Hallis Hall. And of course, they didn't want outside treats coming in. So I had a lot of time on my hands being at home, and I kind of missed baking. And so one of my colleagues said, you got to enter the Tribune Cookie Contest. And I had like 12 hours before the deadline. And I was like, there's nothing better than that raspberry bar from Mrs. Lloyd.
So good.
Yeah. So I submitted that, and it won second place. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And all without having any baking experience prior and on this journey that has been 10 plus years. And now you are in some kind of contest. Tell me about that.
So this was on a whim too. I was just kind of looking around on Instagram, and a notice popped up. It's called the Greatest Baker, and it's through a magazine publication. And if you win $10,000. But then you also get to do a magazine spread with the fella from Cake Boss, and I can't even remember his name right now.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to
Yes.
you meet him, and then you get to bake with him, and you're in the magazine, and then you also get a $10,000 award.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you win, you're going to have to remember his name when you talk to him.
Yes, I do, because I watch his show, but
It's in Jersey. I know that much.
Yes.
Jersey, Cake Boss, the whole thing. That's incredible, though. Have you had a lot of fun doing it?
Yes, it's been fun, and it's interesting because it's a lot about getting votes, getting the vote out there, because a portion of what this contest is doing is going to childhood cancer. So
Sure.
there's an organization behind it. So it's votes. It's based on votes, and then it's also going to. Then I think once you keep, getting more votes, it'll be a competition against the entire country. If I make it to the finalists, I think there's going to be like 900 other finalists if I do make it to the finalists, or whoever makes
And
it.
how can people vote for you?
People can go to The Greatest Baker, and my link is Sarah Tuohy, Tuohy. I have a link that I can go. They can also find me on Facebook,
Okay.
Sarah Tuohy, Tuohy, and then my link is also in my Facebook profile.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you for giving me a little bit of time here in the middle of all your baking that you've been doing to talk about it. I've been wanting to do this forever. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and do it right before the holidays. And apropos that you just did something for the Bears again for their big holiday party. So good luck.
Thank you.
And can't wait to try whatever you make. It's always fantastic.
Thank you, John.
And when is the contest? It runs through.
I think it runs up through January, the middle of
Awesome.
January, because it keeps elimination. So I'm in the top 2 right now, and I have to stay within the top 10, and then by next week I stay in the top 5, and then it gets really cutthroat.
All right. All right. Well, you heard it here. That's Sarah Tuohy. I'm Tom Barnes. Storiesfromthe78.com is the website, or you can email me storiesfromthe78.com. But vote for my friend Sarah, right?
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
Bear down.
And go Bears.